Hi, this is Mary, your holistic recovery coach. Today we're talking about reservations in recovery. In this video, I'll quickly cover what are reservations in recovery, what does this term mean, what are some examples of it, when to be concerned about having reservations in recovery, and what to do if you have reservations in recovery. So today we're talking about reservations in recovery. We're not talking about this kind of reservation.
Hey, you feel like Italian for dinner?
And we're not talking about this kind of reservation. Side note, there is a recovery program called Wellbriety that's based on the Native American culture, and everyone's welcome. I'll put a description below this video. But reservations in recovery are in the sense of the term that's kind of like if you were to say, I'm reserving the right to change my mind. Sort of like the dinner reservation is about holding a space for yourself in the near future, like holding a table for dinner tonight at 7 at that Italian restaurant. But with recovery reservations, having a reservation in recovery, what are you holding a space for? You're holding a place for yourself in the near or distant future to potentially relapse. And where do you hold that space? You hold that space in your mind. Often we keep these reservations to ourselves. So reservations in recovery apply to any type of addiction, any substance, any process addiction. But just for the sake of today in this discussion, I'll use the terms alcohol and be talking about alcoholism recovery in terms of reservations. So you may be sober any amount of time, days, weeks, months, even years, but you're holding this idea in the back of your mind that maybe someday it might be okay for you to drink again. Rationalizing the when, where, and how that would be okay. You might use the word doubts as a synonym for reservations because it's about doubting your ability to stay sober. But doubts are kind of generally doubting your ability to stay sober, maybe under certain circumstances or situations. Reservations tend to be pretty specific from the standpoint of thinking, maybe I can drink again, or I will have to drink again if X, Y, or Z happens. So again, just to review, what are reservations in recovery? It's really about reserving your right to drink, reserving your right to relapse, giving yourself permission to drink or to use if. And that's the big if. We'll get to some examples. Reservations can lead to planning your potential relapse. That's why it's really important that we're talking about this today. It's like giving excuses to relapse in the future, rationalizations for drinking in the future, and it's kind of like rationalizing your future relapse. Usually it manifests as secret thoughts or fantasies about how you might drink again. Imagining situations where it might somehow, someday be okay to drink again. So what are some examples of reservations in recovery? The main word is if, because usually it's some type of hypothetical situation that you're kind of conjuring up in your mind. Of course, not being in the present and focusing on the present day, you're thinking about maybe one day in the future, if something happens, I might drink. So here are some examples. You might say, if such and such, again, fill in the blank, tragedy happens, I think I would drink, or it would be okay to drink, or who could blame me if such and such happened? Then I could drink. And that could be really anything. It could be if, God forbid, anything awful happened to my, insert your loved one, my spouse, my child, my parent, my pet. It could be anything, okay? If God forbid anything happened to that loved one, I'd probably drink again. Another example might be if my spouse or significant other left me, I might drink again. If I got diagnosed with, insert illness, I may as well drink. If I got fired, etc. The list goes on and on. It could be something positive, like striking it rich. If I'm rich one day, really rich, I can drink again. I'll actually hire myself a round-the-clock babysitter to keep me out of trouble. I laugh, but people have these thoughts. Or it could be something like, when I retire, then I can probably drink. The list goes on. If you're not sure if you have reservations, maybe sit with the following statement. If there's just one thing I know I couldn't get through without drinking, it's... Did something come to mind? Ponder that one. Maybe after this video, sit with it a little bit and get really honest with yourself. And maybe you have just one wild, nearly unimaginable hypothetical that comes to mind. But here's the thing, as soon as that hypothetical becomes reality, that's where reservations turn into rationalizations for your relapse. We need to be really conscious about where we put our attention, as that can have very grave or amazing consequences as a result. If you're familiar with the law of attraction, that holds that where we put our attention, wherever we put our attention, good or bad, we're likely to attract more of that, whatever we're focusing on. So it's pretty serious, this topic of reservations and addiction recovery, because it is about, even if we're holding it in the back of our minds, it's there and taking up space, and subconsciously we're kind of putting it out there, this focus on the potential excuse to drink in the future. And spending time fantasizing or holding on to a secret plan or idea that we can someday, somehow drink again in the future is potentially dangerous. Spending time fantasizing about or holding on to a secret to hypothetically drink in the future is dangerous. When we think about this from the standpoint of mental health professionals, if someone just has the occasional, throughout their life, passing thought about the idea of possibly committing suicide, just the idea of suicide, which many people do, that's one thing. But when is it more alarming? When is it considered a dangerous sign? When someone has a more specific plan about how, if they were to commit suicide, how might they do that? Okay, then that's considered having a plan. And when someone has a plan, it's a much more dangerous sign that their chances of carrying out that plan is far more likely than just casually thinking about it. So having a specific plan or idea about the how of it is what's more concerning, because then the person's more likely to carry that plan out. And it's kind of the same thing with reservations. With reservations, it's like having the occasional passing thought about drinking versus having the detailed when, how, if I were to drink again, under what circumstances and how would I carry that out, is more concerning. Just like in that suicide, although it seems extreme example, it's actually related, it applies. So we're more concerned about reservations if you have them and you're holding on to this real specific idea of when it might be okay or when you could get away with drinking again. So here's the bottom line. There's really no if example of any type of situation or scenario that someone somewhere at some point in time hasn't already been through and stayed sober through it. So with that in mind, there's really no way to rationalize. There's no justifiable excuse for any reservation. I've certainly personally seen people experience all sorts of stuff, both tragic, horrifying, and amazing life stuff without picking up a drink. We sober alcoholics collectively have stayed sober through heartbreak, divorce, losing children, losing parents, change of jobs, good and bad, being fired, getting your dream job, losing all your money, winning the lottery. True story. There's someone locally where I live who won the lottery and they didn't drink. So all sorts of experiences, from losing loved ones, losing custody of their children, or doing prison time, weddings, funerals, coming out, transitioning, dealing with all sorts of various family challenges, moving countries, you name it, someone's done it sober. So with all that knowledge now about reservations, can you agree that reservations end up being really about holding ourselves back from truly embracing a full sober life? We can get through anything that life throws our way without a drink, that we can really live fully and free of alcohol. It's okay if you still have reservations. Many people do. That's the reason that this video exists. That's the reason that there is a term for this concept, and that's why we're talking about it. So there's no shame in that. In fact, I applaud you if you're still watching. You got this far along in the video, because now I'm going to talk about what do you do if you realize you have reservations. If you're in a 12-step program, you probably addressed reservations in step 1, but maybe something slipped through the cracks and you're realizing that now. Or maybe you never did it. Maybe you're not in a 12-step program, but you're trying to stay sober some other way. Like I said before, take the time to sit with it and really get honest with yourself. It always helps to write things down. Whatever reservations you think you might have, jot them down. And then what's key is that you've got to share it with someone else, because it's kind of like the saying, you're as sick as your secrets. We need to get these secrets out, and reservations often are kept as secrets, and people don't realize that you had that secret until you relapse, and that's too late. So share the reservations with someone you trust immediately, as soon as you can. If you're in a 12-step program, it could be a sponsor, a mentor, someone with more experience in recovery that you trust, a therapist, a recovery coach, or some other type of practitioner who understands this and that can help you sort through those reservations and really get to what's behind them so that you can shift and really free yourself from that holding yourself back from fully embracing recovery and your sober life. And again, know that you're not alone in being a person who has had reservations. It's really about what you do with them and not feeling like you're unique. I'll link to an old video I did about the term terminal uniqueness because maybe some of you watching will find that helpful as well. So thanks for watching. Thanks for giving this video a quick like. Please subscribe for more holistic recovery support and have a happy, healthy 24 hours ahead.